All right, we are live with Power Media Solutions. I am Sharen Rooks. Hey, everybody. Oh, I'm loving this. I am loving this. We're going to have a good time this evening. Hopefully, our guest will be on shortly. I know that she was tied up in some meetings, but that's okay. Nevertheless, we will still have this live and talk. I'm so glad you guys are joining. Make sure you out, send a message to let everybody know that we are live. Let's see here. This is going to be so fun. Tonight, we're going to be talking about how to sue your employer and when. The purpose of this podcast and show is to talk about issues that people don't want to talk about. um, we need to discuss things that are really hard and find out solutions and best practices. And so that's the purpose of the live. And hopefully, we will have you guys submit questions and we will answer those questions as they become available. Going to give you guys a few more moments to get in. Jump on in here and let me know you're here. I received so many messages after I posted yesterday. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Know you are there. Send me a message. Let me know if you're tuning in and if you can see me and hear me. Okay. All right. All right. I'm working with these buttons tonight, y'all. Just bear with me. So tonight, again, we're going to be talking about how to sue your employer and best practices. My background is in public relations and marketing. Many of you know that. Also, background in HR. I did a lot of work with the federal government for a lot of years, and I learned a lot of stuff, whole lot of stuff, and I've seen a lot of things. And so, 20% of my inquiries through Power Media Solutions involves employment issues, people needing resume development. They have possible discrimination issues, um, toxic work environment, and how to navigate through those things. And so it tends to take up a lot of time when you are trying to work with someone and assist them. And many times it drives people to start their own business because they have such a bad experience working in a corporate environment. And so that trauma is just so painful that they don't even want to go back into working for someone. And so that's really troubling. But tonight we're going to talk about things we should not do so that we don't get to that point. Y'all follow me? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to share a few case studies with you, and we're going to talk about what that looks like. And sometimes it can be the simplest thing, the smallest thing that will cause an employer to get caught up. And it just didn't happen at one time. We're going to talk about how it escalates and how it festers and we get to that pivotal point where we're tied up in litigation and all of this kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about gaslighting and how that works because many of you have seen it. You probably have experienced it. And so we're going to talk about those things tonight. And as soon as Crystal gets on, I know she was traveling. We're going to ask her some questions because her background is pivotal to this discussion as to why I wanted her on. She has the credentials and the credibility to answer these questions. And so I know that she wouldn't mind answering these questions. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is, why would someone want to sue their employer, first of all? Why? Most people just don't get on a job and say, hey, I just want to sue you. I just want to do this. That's not how that happens. Um, People just don't become a part of your organization and all of a sudden say, hey, I just want to sue. Um, I remember back in the day when you worked for an employer and they treated you well. There was a level of loyalty and mutual respect in human resources. Let me use that word, mutual respect in human resources. Over time, things have changed. There's lack of mutual respect. And when the human resource entity does not, I'm not going to say don't understand, but when they lose sight of what the focus should be, that's how we get to how you sue your employer and win situations. Okay. So I can give you an example. You work for an organization 40 years, you've aged. They have a tendency to um, want to change your description, your duties, your roles, and your responsibilities because they really want you to retire, but they can't say, we want you to retire. You're up in age, you're just dated. They can't say those things to you because of the age discrimination. And so what will end up happening, you'll have the gaslighting method that starts. Um, Rumors being put out that you're incompetent, you're slow, you can't keep up, um, just all things. And that rumor will continue to spread throughout the organization. And so any misstep that you have, it will be looked upon as if you're not capable. And so if you're in a leadership position and have and you oversee, one of the first things that happens is that your budget is affected, your money is pulled. It the powers to be try to make it very difficult for you to accomplish and stay on task. And so we're going to delve into that tonight. But that gaslighting is something else. And we have seen it even in the city of Memphis. It plays out in the media with a few people. And that's just a clear case of what happens when gaslighting is prevalent and permitted. And so you have to be careful. And the only thing I'm trying to share with you all is something has happened over the years where the human resource component is not what it used to be. And what I would like to share with any business owner, any organization, your company, your brand does not work without the people. So if you continue or allow people, your frontline people, because that's normally the ones who are doing stuff, your frontline people to harm, damage, micromanage, all of those things. If you allow these people to take hold of your vision and birth of your brand and cost you to be caught up in litigation, it's kind of your fault. You must oversee the people that work for you. Continuous training is always and should be top of mind for every single employer. So, prime example of a situation, another case study. Young man reached out to me a couple of weeks ago. He termed an individual, and the guy still had some of his tools or equipment. Well, the owner felt like he could garnish wages or not pay him. Well, according to the DOL, you can't do that. You have to pay the person. So that situation could have really turned out to be something even worse, because what if the employee had done some more research and found out that he had to pay him anyway? He could have quickly turned that and pivoted over to wanting to sue his employer, even though he was no longer there. So, my recommendation for the business owner, you need to join the Sharen Memphis chapter today. Get your 1-year membership so that you can have access to HR professionals real time at your leisure to get assistance, because your lack of understanding of how to manage your business doesn't excuse the fact that you can and will be sued. Did y'all catch that? Okay. Your lack of understanding and preparation and protection does not excuse you from the fact that you can and will be sued. Oftentimes, when people are a part of an organization and they end up in litigation, it doesn't happen just like that. It's a buildup. Okay. And normally it's usually the same individual who's in leadership, and people know that they have this way about them. This way about them. Most of them are very micromanage type people. And I'm going to stop right there. If you have that situation and you have someone who is micromanaging type of disposition, that comes from some insecurities from another place. I'm a firm believer that if I hire the person to do the task, I have to trust you and believe that I have made the right call. And if I am second guessing myself, then I need to examine what I did and how I measured and made that decision. And if I made a bad decision, I need to be accountable for that decision that I made. Okay? So let's go back. This person who's in leadership, they have a tendency or a pattern of writing people up for frivolous things. They have a huge turnover, under them. They may manage a staff of 40, 50, 100 people, but people just keep quitting and they just keep, something is wrong with that. And as a person who is C-suite level, VP, or however hierarchy you want to go, it is incumbent upon them to see or pull a report and say, something is not right. Why are we keep investing and spending all this money for recruitment and all of these things, and people are not staying, or they're staying for a short window of time? That's what this is about, okay? I hear all the time about people saying workforce, people don't want to work, workforce, people don't want to work. There are people who really want to work and they want to work for a decent employer and they want to be treated with mutual respect. However, you can't expect for someone to exchange time for money and you treat them like trash. You're bullying them. You're micromanaging. You're playing with their money. You're playing with their time. You want to prove their time. You cut money off from them. I mean, you do all of these tactics to create stress and trauma for someone who is bringing you income and revenue by working for you. That logic just doesn't make sense to me. And maybe I'm weird, but mutual respect at the end of the day, that's what it should be about. And when you lose that, that's when you get to how to sue your employer and win situations. Okay. So let's go back to the person again who is writing people up, putting people on PIPs, performance improvement plans, all of those kind of tactics and things like that. Well, that individual has a pattern of doing these things. So, what eventually happens is the person that is being picked on starts experiencing trauma, um, calling in sick, headaches, stomach issues, anxiety. Some people I know have been in therapy. Some of them are still in therapy and they are working at a job that is toxic. Well, Sharon, why don't they just leave? Well, they've invested about 25 years and they're at a point now they feel like and they believe in their mind that it is best and advantageous for them to stay. They try to transfer and do all this other kind of stuff and get into another department and just do things, but nothing seems to work out because this person has the power over them to keep them and maintain that hold on them. That's how we get to a situation of how to sue your employer. And I am stressing to small businesses and organizations, you need to know what your people are doing. You should know what your people are doing and how they're treating the staff and the team and all of that. This is not a bashing situation here. It is not that. But what I want people to understand is you oftentimes you don't give the employee an option other than to sue. That's the only voice can be heard. And so if you don't like that method or that pivoting or that road that they go down, you need to do something different in how you treat your people. I remember a few years ago, there was a survey that we had to do. Even when I worked for the federal government, I was a field supervisor. I started off at entry level, then I moved up to a field supervisor. And so when I had my evaluations, I had a team of 7 in the field. They had to evaluate me because we worked in close proximity. Then I had another evaluation from the area field director. That's 7 people. That's Donna. That makes nine. Okay, that's 8 people. Then I had the regional director who had to evaluate me. And she was evaluating me based off of responses, interactions, email communications, timely reporting, and all of that. So I had all these levels of evaluations and reporting on my job performance and how I was leading and working with my team. And to this day, I kept all of my evaluations. I kept all of my evaluations when I was teaching school. I'm just that kind of nerdy chick like that, okay? Because I believe in operating with excellence. And again, operating with excellence is a thing you would think. But oftentimes, when you are on someone's job and you are very thorough, meticulous, and you perform and you stay on task, you can be targeted as well. Keep that in mind. Listen to what I just said. If you are a person who is thorough, meticulous, stays on task, and performs well, it used to be a time where you would move up and it was like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. We want this. This is it. This is love. Over time, that has changed. And I have witnessed it myself. What happens is a person who is your direct report, the person you directly report to, if that individual feels threatened by you, you will often become the target so that they can move you, release you. When I talk about HR and I talk about mutual respect, it's passionate for me. I am familiar with 2 violent situations that spurred out of HR. One situation, a person was termed without the counsel and support from a de-escalator in HR, which is what I am. Female decided that she was going to term this individual, and she knew what she was doing, and she was going to handle it. Well, she termed the man. She spoke really, really horrible to him, very condescending. It was all done all wrong. She missed a lot of steps. She got off work, driving her regular route, and someone was waiting for her at the red light and unloaded across her car. Didn't kill her, missed her. It shook her up. And it was that individual that she had talked to so bad. She learned a valuable lesson. Yes, he was arrested and all that other stuff took place. But the point of the story is mutual respect. Never, ever should an individual in the workplace be spoken to in a condescending manner, belittled, threatened, harassed. None of that. None of that. It is not healthy. And we know what cancer is. It's the same way with a toxic work environment. It's cancerous and it just spreads, and that's what happens. So, not good, not a good look. The other situation that that I'm familiar with, an individual was micromanaged in such a way it became to the form of bullying. And this individual was a female. She ended up committing suicide. That's the danger of not knowing and allowing your frontline people to do things to your people. That's a problem. When I am interviewing anyone, there are certain things I can't ask because they are illegal. I was conducting a consultation just last year with an individual, and he was saying things he shouldn't say. And I had to explain to him, you can't say that. You can't ask them. You can't do that. Well, he didn't like that too much. Needless to say, that organization suffered some financial woes and litigation issues because he didn't listen. But go figure. So I know a little bit about what I'm saying. I don't know a whole lot, but I know a little taste, just a little bit. try to help some. So again, as we're talking about how to sue your employer and win situations, those are usually the situations that will be in the favor of an employee if the employer does not harness, train, educate, develop, understand the policies and procedures of that organization. When you get on the job, you should read the handbook thoroughly. And most people don't like to read. Point in case. The title of the show tonight is How to Sue Your Employer and Win. So people are going to think, oh my God, she's going to call names and she's going to call names of all these people and stuff that she sued and all this kind of stuff. No, it's not about that. No. Fear or retribution of any sort, but that's not what the basis of this is about. This is about trying to prepare people, employees, and the employer not to get in these situations. No employee wants to sue their employer. Think about it. They're there to receive money from you. In exchange, they're going to give you some time and you're going to give them some money. That is a mutual understanding, mutual respect. Somewhere in there it gets gray, it gets fuzzy when the communication gets off, when there's a fear of being threatened with, your position being threatened and you outperform your leader and all this kind of stuff. That's when it becomes gray and murky. And just because you own the business does not mean you can do and say whatever you want. Let me be clear. You cannot make up rules just because you wake up one morning, you put a rule and a policy in place. You can't do that. If my work day has been this to this, and this is what I signed when I started working for you, and this is the agreement and the understanding that I have, you can't come back and tell me that I now have to work every weekend. You can't do that. Be careful with that. I have been in so many investigations, inappropriate comments. You're in the locker room, you talk to the guys in the locker room. You can't do that kind of stuff in a corporate setting and talk like that around women and men. You can't do that. What you say out on the field when you're playing, you can't say that stuff in the workplace. And most of the time, and I'm just telling you what the numbers I've seen and the reports I've done in my 9-10 years of being in HR, most of the HR complaints and grievances are filed by women. Let that sink in. Most of them are filed by women. Why is that? I don't know. I can only assume, but I don't know. So that's something to think about. Most of the time, when a person feels they have no other recourse, they've gone to HR. And HR practitioners and professionals, we should not be discussing grievances, investigations with other employees. Any person that is under investigation, you have to be a person who can be trusted and to conduct a real and thorough investigation. I'm not talking about this play stuff. I'm talking about a real investigation. Statement accounts, pulling videos, pulling audio, pulling key swipe cards, pulling reports, time cards and stuff. You have to do a thorough investigation. And when a person feels like you have not done that, they filed a grievance, they've talked to your supervisor, they have the chain, talked to the VP in corporate, if you have a headquarters in another state, they've done all of these things and then they end up at the EEOC. And you wonder why that happens. Because you didn't do anything. You did not do anything. You did not rectify and resolve the situation that needed to be resolved. Hence is why you're in the EEOC and now you're talking to an investigator. So we don't want to get to that point. And the way to not get us to that point is to go back to mutual respect in the workplace. I am encouraging you now, if you are an employer and you have an issue with your staff, high turnover, you can't seem to hire anybody, your recruiting efforts are off, you might want to look at your leadership. Check out your frontline people. Because if they don't know how to talk to people, they don't have respect for folks, they're condescending, they micromanage, and they're bullies, you're probably not going to get the best that you could get to be in that organization. And it's just something to think about. It's just something to think about. If anybody has any questions or comments or anything, please chime in. Hopefully I can get read on. I hope she knows how to get on. Yeah. But if not, we're going to keep on going because there's so much to uncover here. Don't end up in the pool of the numbers. I pulled a report and I want to share this with you because I do believe in reporting what is out there. And yes, check your. All right, I'm going to pull this report and I'm going to just give you an overview of what it says in Tennessee. Haha. It says, and I'm reading this from the Tennessean, came out just yesterday, and it says Tennessee workers' life workplace discrimination charges are high in Tennessee. Tennessee workers file workplace discrimination charges at an all-time high rate. Why is that? That's something to talk about. Why is it that people in Tennessee feel as if they are being discriminated against? We all know that there's things going on in Tennessee in our legislative capacity. But a lot of times that stuff is already in the corporate setting, okay? And it just shows its head. It's just evident. You know, people are no longer masking how they feel and what they believe. Hence, you get into the discrimination with age and all this kind of stuff. But I thought that was really interesting to know there's a high rate of discrimination charges being filed in Tennessee. Think about this. People are filing, discrimination charges against employers. So are they actively working? How does it hurt your bottom line? That's why this is so important. The studies also reveal that most of the time in the state of Tennessee, a settlement case usually ranges anywhere from 5,000 up to 80,000 in a settlement. There's no court. So if a settlement is reached, That means that the person simply gets paid. And then we're going to talk, there are like four areas um, where this happens, and I will give them to you. So, when a settlement is reached, there are different requirements and understandings. Go back to the job or you don't go back. Um, but that range is usually what happens for the state of Tennessee, that cap between 5,000 and 80. And if you have to get a employment lawyer and all that kind of stuff, they can tell you a little bit more about that. But does that make the employee happy that they win a settlement? Yes and no. You may get a settlement, but you've still experienced a trauma. Think about that. You may receive the settlement, but how long could that last you to live? 80,000 is not a lot of money. So, and that's just the range for the settlement piece. If you end up going to trial, more than likely to be more than that. But that's time that's taken away from your life, your quality of life to deal with this situation. And that's even more trauma. So ask yourself again, is it worth it? Are you going to lose your home and all this kind of stuff? And I encourage employees, employers to really consider these things. You don't want to be listed in any type of legal document or, deposition per se about how someone was poorly treated at your organization. That's the key. Mutual respect. And that's what's missing across the board with employers and employee situations. You cannot treat people any kind of way and expect for them to continue to want to be a part of your organization. Doesn't work that way. So the other area, as we were talking about settlements, there are 4 line items when it comes to the settlement, the 4 factors. You're talking about economic damages, uh, compensatory damages, punitive damages, and attorney fees and expenses. So those things matter. What damage did they do, to you? Did you lose this? Did you lose that? Your character, your name. Well, I mean, just a whole bunch of things in that. And lawyers, they get their 1/3, so you got to keep all of that in mind. But we don't want to get to this point. This is what we're talking about. How to sue your employer and win. All of these things that I'm sharing with you will get you to that point. And it starts with the leadership of the frontline person that is managing. More than likely, that's where it starts. I remember a situation. I was interviewing for a lead role, and the individual was in a current capacity in a role of a coordinator. He was interviewing for a GM position. I said no. There were 2 other people that said no. So we had 3 no's. 2, maybe they can grow into it, they can be trained, this, that, and the other. I stuck to my guns and I said no, and I'll tell you why. A person who is in a coordinator position has no competency whatsoever to be a general manager. They have not hired people, they have not fired people, they have not developed any policies and procedures, they have not done any logistical nothing. They have not had the experience of running a full-fledged business department. No, nothing. NADA is not that. Okay. So the decision was made to hire this individual as a general manager. Needless to say, it's been a hot mess. And I'm polite by saying that. Hot mess. But again, I don't know anything. Just trying to help somebody. Go figure. So when you reach out to me at Power Media Solutions and you ask me for HR consulting, I am going to be very authentic, true, and raw with you because I don't play about people's money and their passions and their dreams because somebody had to birth this vision and this passion for this organization or business to even be in existence. And for you to allow someone who didn't put the sweat equity in to possibly cost you to lose it all, that's quite troubling for me, especially being a business owner myself. There's no way I would allow someone to come into my business and manage a staff, my staff, and they treat them horribly. And then I get sued and I lose everything trusting this person who's my second or third in command, all because I didn't do my due diligence in checking up on them, basically, you know. So keep those things in mind. We do have one question coming in, and that question is, how do you deal with an employer who has a history of lawsuits? Well, I mean, if you've done your research and you've seen that they have a history of lawsuits for discrimination issues, I don't know if I would be trying to work with that organization. That's just me. I don't think that would be the best move. If you know this history and you've talked to people, evidently you have some type of knowledge from somebody. So I don't know if it's firsthand. I don't know if it's people that work for the organization or you've looked up something online because sometimes this stuff is public records. Um, I know a nonprofit, they can't have any legal litigations and judgments and all that kind of stuff against them if they receive federal funding. So they have to really, really hold it tight and keep it together so they can keep their money. So that's one thing that probably holds them to a standard where they will maintain some form of mutual respect. I'm not saying they all do, but I'm just saying there's a way for you to check on that. I probably wouldn't work for that employer. Um, okay, we got another question. Let's see. How do you suggest a person deals with a grievance? Every employer should have a process. Again, that's why it's very important for you to read the handbook and understand what is being said and how you're supposed to communicate your grievances and all that kind of stuff. There should be a process. If you don't have a process, that's a quick way to end up to what we're talking about. That's the nicest way I can say it. You cannot make up rules along the way when someone challenges you on the rule or the policy that does not exist. Y'all hear me? Okay. You cannot make up rules, policies, and procedures when someone challenges you for the rules and the policies and procedures that you don't even have. Okay. I got to scratch my head on that one because that happens a lot. So that would be the thing that I would suggest is you need to know what the process is, who is your chain of command, and how you're supposed to air out your grievances. I caution any employer, if you don't have a true HR department, you need to invest in the SHRM Memphis chapter membership, and it's $264 for a whole year. Your office manager, receptionist, business manager cannot be your HR people. Okay. Yeah. Your procurement person, your AP person can HR. Okay. I'm just saying. Because there are legal questions that may come up, and they may not be skilled enough to respond to these questions. And because they are unable to respond to those questions, does not excuse it from going to where it needs to go, whether it's filing, additional procedures or whatever. So your lack of understanding and knowledge and intelligence about a situation doesn't excuse you in any way. Um, let's see what else is there. It's just so much to talk about. So much to talk about. How to sue your employer and when. And a lot of things we discussed tonight, you probably have experienced it or witnessed it on the job, know someone who has gone through it, and you can relate. And this is not a time of bashing, like I said, anyone. This is a time to get the information so that you won't be the one that's being sued. Because that money has to come from somewhere. And you've lost that person who was valuable to your time, and now you no longer have a person. So you still had to do some form of recruiting and spending money because one individual who was on your front line made decisions and took actions that were inappropriate, that caused you to settle with someone. Last year, and you can look this up online, Williams Sonoma had to pay out a huge settlement, and it was like I maybe think 300 and some odd $1,000. And the reason why they end up it being a class action lawsuit was because one employee, they failed to pay them their last check. And when the person started complaining and calling Department of Labor and all these other agencies, it sparked a major investigation of Williams Sonoma. And they pulled all kind of time sheets and everything during this period and all this kind of stuff. And they discovered that there were several people that had not received their last paycheck after they were separated. And they had to pay that money out. So, yeah. And Williams Sonoma is not a nonprofit organization. It is a for-profit entity. So, and I'm not speaking bash, talking, bad about them. This is public knowledge. So it was talked about in the news media and so on. And there's so many stories out there of employers getting caught up. But the point of that is when a person separates from your organization, you need to have a process of exiting and closing everything out and completing it correctly, whatever that process looks like. And again, if you don't know, That's why you need a Sherm Memphis chapter. Get you a membership, $264 a year, because they can help you. Your lack of knowledge and understanding does not excuse the law. Okay? I hope I've helped somebody tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. We have a few more minutes, but thank you so much. There'll be others like this. And those of you who know me, you know I want to tell it like it is. I am the PR lady, and that's my tagline. If you want it told, I'm the one to tell it. Um, I'm just going to tell it. I'm just going to tell it. You may not like it, you may not agree with it, but that's okay. But I want you to be better. I want you to do good. I want you to treat people right. Because at the end of the day, we cannot do our business if we don't have mutual respect for folks. And if you need to change some things, you need some change management in your life, call me. I can help you with that. I can help you. Let's get this thing right. Because the workforce is not dead like people are saying that it is. A lot of that is internal leadership issues, hiring the wrong people to be in charge. And when you hire the wrong people and have them in charge of others, and this individual may already have levels of insecurity and they don't have a management at all, everything is micromanaged, you're going to have problems. And don't ignore those problems. Don't ignore those problems. Please don't. Because it's only going to grow, 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 and grow. You have a small department that suffers all kind of turmoil, then it spreads to another floor, then it spreads into a building, and then before you know it, you got a whole system full of toxic people or people who are leaving your system and your organization in droves, doing a mass exodus, all because of this one person that you decided to keep that is a liability and a risk for your organization. That makes no sense to me. And it doesn't have to be that way. So, again, I hope I've helped someone. Thank you all so much for joining. And remember, if you want it told, I'm the one to tell it. For more information about Power Media Solutions, visit powermediasolutions.com. Until next time, have mutual respect for people. Do right. Good night.